What's going on, everybody? It's Aurora YJ here, coming at you with another deck profile, and I'm very excited to bring this one to you guys because this is quite possibly one of my favorite underrated decks of all time. I've always loved the Atlantean strategy when I was a kid. I was the only person in my classes that didn't get an Atlantean structure deck, and so I'd ask my friends for cards from theirs and like slowly cobble my own together out of like a Frankenstein of other structure decks. And so it was really fun. But I found out about the Mermails, like a few years after that, and I was just like, oh wow, these are really good together. You know, they synergize really well. And then I found out that was the point, like after that. But you can probably tell because of that I've been playing water-based decks for a long time. While they haven't been my main strategy, that usually tends to be like Fluffle or Dino or whatever, they are one of my favorite decks. I feel like they're super underrated for what they can do, and I feel like they're just like one or two cards off from being really good. Hence why, you know, we got the Dragon Ruler mat out. We got both the Dragon Rulers here that should come off the list. Free the homies, especially Tidal. Because there's no other deck that would use Tidal except for this deck, and it wouldn't even make it that good. But regardless, I'm not going to go on for too much longer, so I'm going to go ahead and go on into the in-depth Mermail Atlantean deck profile plus combos. Alright, starting off with the main deck, we have the Mermail package, and that is going to be 3 copies of Mermail Abyssteus, 2 copies of Mermail Abyss Megalo, 1 copy of Mermail Abyss Pike, and 1 copy of Mermail Abyss Gundy. I do believe this is the golden ratio, but I have tested and tinkered with a bunch of different ratios. At one point I played 1 Megalo, I think at one point I played 3 Megalo, I played 3-2-2-2, 3-2-2-1, 3-2-1-2. I played a bunch. I played like literally almost every single ratio outside of Teus because, you know, you're not going to get rid of 3 Teus, but as you can just know from that, I've played a lot of ratios, I've seen all of them, and I do think that this one is the best because Gundy on her own isn't a starter at all. She's only an extender, and she's mainly there for the combo, but she can help you get into like a Gaios or an Alacia. And then Pike is not really much of a starter himself, like unless the rest of your hand is really good. And he's also okay if you need to get him on the field for Bujinkia Hashima. Like, you can send Dragoons off with Teus, special Teus, and then replace the Dragoons with a Pikey search off of him during the Diva combo. Which there's 2 combos, if you don't know. I will get to them, don't worry. But I do feel like this is the golden ratio. You got 1 Megalo for your combos and for extension and everything, and you got 1 Megalo for actually going for the swinging. Admittedly, a Megalo isn't like the biggest, he's not like the scariest boss monster anymore, but you know, he gets the job done being able to swing twice, especially if you equip him with like a Mizuchi or something. And obviously, you're going to play 3 Teus because Teus is one of the best cards in the deck. It's like the heart and soul of Mermail. When you think of Mermail, you usually think of either Megalo or Teus. And if Teus was a Sea Serpent, I feel like this deck would be kind of broken, so I guess it's kind of good that he's an Aqua. I'd also like to get the misconception out of the way that neither of like the Mermails, like the big Mermails, their summons are not once per turn. The only thing that's once per turn is Teus's search effect. You can only search off of him once per turn, but you can summon by discarding either of them as much as you'd like, and you can search off Megalo as many times as you'd like. We do play 2 targets for Megalo, keep that in mind. And then also, I'm pretty sure that per copy, it's like a soft once per turn for Megalo, for the tribute effect. That gives him the extra swing. I'm not too sure, I haven't had it come up because it says second attack, so I don't know, but anyways, that's going to do it for the Mermails. I don't want to go on too long about the Mermails when they're really only featured in one of the combos. Next up, we have the Atlantean package, so that's going to be 3 copies of Neptibus the Atlantean Prince, 3 copies of Atlantean Dragoons, 2 copies of Atlantean Heavy Infantry, and 1 copy of Atlantean Marksman. Again, this is another thing that I have tested many different ratios with. Outside of 3 and 3 of these, which you're always going to keep, you can tinker around as much as you'd like with these. It's not like it's more optimal to play a certain ratio like it is with the Mermails, like for consistency's sake, but I will say test around with the ratios of Heavy Infantry and Marksman depending on your meta. You're probably not going to bring this deck outside of a locals. I mean, I'm going to try to at some point, but depending on your local meta, your library, your OTS store, you know, whatever it may be, change the ratios around a bit, because I've gone through all the ratios of this. I've played 2-in-1, 1-in-1. I recently just put the marksman back in, and I was just playing only 2 infantry. But I like having the 1 marksman because a lot of people, I mean, if you're gonna get full combo off and you're also gonna have like the marksman left over, they're probably just gonna set a few cards and pass and then hope to stall, and so you can get rid of like set cards that can be annoying, like floodgates or solemn cards. And then heavy infantry is just, obviously, it's really nice and generic. I like having this in hand with an Abyssteus on field in order to get a pop and a search. And so again, just mess around with these ratios as much as you'd like, but make sure you're always playing 3-on-3 of this. I mean, Dragoons was at 2 for a reason at one point, and then Abyssteus is one of the best, like, starter cards, I'd like to say, in the game. I think the only thing that could make him scarier, like in terms of how good he is if he was on summon. Unfortunately, he is not on summon, so you can get smacked pretty easily before you can even activate the effect. But keep in mind, it does send for cost. A lot of people don't realize he's a lot like Dante in the fact that he sends for cost. And so if they imperm him, ash him, or whatever, most of the time you're gonna be fine, unless you really need another level 4 in hand for like Bajinkia Hashima. But usually you're gonna be fine. They'll probably actually end up saving for the Dragoons, so. But yeah, that's the golden ratio for the Atlanteans, I'd like to think, at least in terms of these, obviously. And then these just change up as much as you'd like. You can side some of them, you can main them. It's really just whatever. I like to have 3 copies of extra Atlanteans though, because, you know, if you run out of Dragoons, you're gonna not be able to activate Neptibus otherwise. For the next engine, quite the beautiful engine here, we have the Deep Sea cards. We have 3 Diva and 3 Minstrel. I am not playing the Deep Sea Prima Donna. I do not enjoy that card at all. And so I'm not playing the Artisan, I think his name is. He's like the level 1 or whatever. That special's a guy from Grave. I don't know. So yeah, I do think these are the only Deep Seas you need to play. Obviously, 3 Diva, like Diva's a crazy card. She was limited for a long time for a reason. And then Minstrel, I do like to play 3 Minstrel. A lot of people play 2, or they just don't play her at all. I've never seen like 1. It's usually just 0, 2, or 3. But I do like 3 because one of the biggest weaknesses with this deck isn't what it does, it's the fact that hand traps stop it. I'm sorry, my sleeves are really gross, and so I'm like trying to clean them off as I go. But this deck dies to hand traps, especially multiple hand traps. So if you can either get rid of the only hand trap they have, or at least lighten the load so your extenders can put in some work and not get stopped by using Minstrel, it's really nice. She can also trigger your Dragoons. For those of you, by the way, that don't know what she does, you send her and another water from your hand to the grave to look at your opponent's hand, which is kind of crazy, and then banish a card from it face up until the end phase. And so that can be really, really nice. It can stop hand traps. If they don't have any hand traps, you can like banish bad cards, so you can rip the good cards later on with stuff like Molinglacia and Trishula. And so overall, Deep Sea Minstrel is an incredible card. I cannot recommend her enough. And admittedly, I wouldn't use her second effect. She mills 3 from the top of your deck and then puts a level 4 lower water on top or bottom. I almost never get a good mill. It's usually never worth it. It just wastes resources. So really just use her for her hand trap stopping capabilities. The last engine in the deck, which is a personal favorite of mine after a lot of experimentation, is the Frog package. So, funnily enough, I used to hate the Frog package. If any of you have seen my last Mermail deck profile on the channel with Javon, I think I told him like many times in the video how much I hate the Frogs because they don't trigger your Atlanteans or anything like that, yada yada. But they are so much more than just being able to trigger things. So, the thing is, not only can Swap Frog allow you to have an extra Toad on top of an already established board, as well as being able to summon another Swap Frog from deck for an extra material for Toad negates, but also he can set up a Toad before you start going full combo. So Diva combo doesn't protect you from things like Nib or anything like that, and so you do want to be able to set up a Toad if you can before all that happens, and you have the room for it too. It's not like you're going to run out of space if you do it, and it's not going to affect your graveyard at all because everything's going to be banished or under Toad, so that's really, really nice. And so you don't have to worry about your Molinglacia being dealt with, and then also he's an extra body in general, both he and Ronin Toadin, because Neptibus plus Swap Frog and any water, that's full Diva combo because that gets you your extra body on board that you need for your Hulk. and Ronin Totem in Grave. Instead of summoning like your Fishborg launcher, and I almost said Fishborg Blaster, instead of summoning your Fishborg launcher and letting it get banished and wasting your level 1 tuner for your Appaloosa, you can just banish a Swap Frog, special the Ronin, and use that, and it's not once per turn, so if you have another one in Grave, you can use it again for something like Toad Negate. And so that's really, really cool. I really love the Frog package. They are so versatile, and I cannot recommend them enough, honestly. That's it for the engine monsters. We are still on regular monsters now, so onto the miscellaneous things. We have 2 copies of Gameciel, the Sea Turtle Kaiju. Nothing wrong with maining Kaijus, especially in a deck that can like really utilize them. Admittedly, he's not a Sea Serpent. He is an Aqua, so you can't search him, but you know, you can still utilize him for things like Swap Frog, you know, your Mermails, Deep Sea Minstrel, all that sort of stuff. He's also really big if you can revive him back using anything, and so that's really nice. Also, your deck has issues outing things like Dragoon and Ultimate Conductor Tyranno and any other large boss monster that can maybe have protection. So you really want to be able to out them really easily. And Megalo is bigger than Gameciel. That's like important, I guess. So just, you know, make everything disappear under an Angry Turtle. Mulanglacia, or as I like to call him, Sea Cow. I love this card. Being able to rip 2 cards from your opponent's hand or their entire hand if they have like less than 2 is kind of crazy. Admittedly, you do lose your battle phase after he leaves the field, or you lose your next battle phase, I should say. Which, you know, if you're doing full combo and you don't have like a god hand, then there's no way you're not losing your next battle phase, which is unfortunate, but you know, you probably have enough hand rips and negates to make sure that doesn't matter. So, also, being able to special him from hand just for having 5 waters is really cool. I wish he could be Monster Reborn, but that'd probably be kind of broken, so, you know, it's whatever. Overall, I really do like Mulanglacia. Incredible card, love it. Lapis Dragon, or as I like to call him, fucking bitch-ass Garnet, and I hate this card and love this card at the same time. I hate him because if you draw him and you have full combo, guess what? It's no longer full combo, it's the small combo. And also, if you draw him for small combo and you don't have another way of getting a body on board, you're fucked, idiot. Yeah, Lapis Dragon can be an issue if you draw him, but overall, he's so worth it. Being a Sea Serpent, so you can search him, being able to special himself if you add him from deck to hand, 2600 defense, he is a tuner, and so, like, it's really easy to get Hulk out in this deck, because, like, half your deck is just tuners, which, you know, actually isn't an issue, like you may think, but being able to get out Hulk really easily with this, or Diva, or Minstrel, you know, having so many options is really great. And also, you know, it's a free body in general, like you can special it from your hand, that's just free link fodder, so like Lapis Dragon and hate Lapis Dragon, just give me fucking OTS Super and I'll be happy. And finally we have Fishborg Launcher, one of my favorite tuners and probably the only fair Hulk tuner that resurrects itself from grave. So this is also the fucking reason why you can't run hand traps in this deck that aren't imperm, because he requires everything in your grave to be water for you to be able to special him and then banish him when he leaves the field. So, kind of unfortunate, but you know, who really cares, honestly. So, it's like, you can't play hand traps, but I feel like it's so much worth it, because, you know, it's a second tuner summon. Like, you wonder why Jet Synchron and shit's banned? It's like, he does the exact same thing, but he's worse. Just please bring back Blaster and Aurora him. Just please, I don't want to play this shitty card anymore now. Okay, admittedly it's not shit. I even said I really like this card, and I forced Javon at gunpoint to play it in his build, and I forced my other friend to play it in his build because I told him, I was just like, Fishborg Launcher, good card. Like, I heavily think this is actually a really good card. Like I said though, it is unfortunate that you can't play hand traps other than imperm, but it's whatever, you know, it's just a free tuner, who cares? And that's it for the monsters, takes up most of the deck. Now on to the spells. We have 2 Deep Sea Aria. Really nice card, honestly, to have. Banish a water from your graveyard, add level 4 lower Sea Serpent from your deck to your hand, and it's a hard once per turn. In combination with Minstrel, it's full combo. Or Minstrel and any water, I should say, because it grabs you your Diva. That's really nice. Or even if you have a Teus in hand and you have Minstrel and some other water, you can actually grab a Dragoons and then go full combo, which is really cool. But most of the time you're going to be searching Diva off of it. But you can search Dragoons, you can search Minstrel, Neptibus. You can search like almost half of your monsters, which is really, really nice. Overall, very well designed card. I would not play more than 2, but I'm definitely never going to drop it down to 1. If I can help it, at least. Alright everybody, hear me out. So, you're probably gonna laugh at me, which, you know, is fine. Go ahead and laugh away. But I play one copy of Moray of Greed, and hear me out, right? Hear me out. So, a lot of you probably saying, what the fuck are you doing playing this old trash-ass card? It's literally just better Upstart Goblin. So, what people don't really consider is the fact that they're going to draw their things like Fishborg Launcher, they're going to draw their Lapis Dragon, they're going to draw a lot of bricks, or maybe they drew like decent cards, like not bricks, but they didn't draw their combo pieces. Well, Moray of Greed is literally just a hand reset. So it says, shuffle 2 water monsters from your hand into the deck, then draw 3 cards. And because it's old as dirt, it does not shuffle for cost. And so the thing is, you could already have a really good hand, right? And then use this as a bluff for the opponent to ash, because they're probably going to realize, okay, they're using that because they have a bad hand. And the fact is, it shuffles 2 and draws 3. Meaning that this card is an even trade for itself, because, you know, you're shuffling 2 and using this, that's 3, and you're going to draw 3 fresh cards. Effectively, this plus Upstart turns your 40 card deck into a 38 card deck. Because again, like, this can not only reset a bad hand, but it can also take a mediocre hand and make it even better, or just add extra extenders or things like that. Because either they're gonna waste the ash on this, and you'll probably still have a playable hand, or they're gonna save their hand traps, but you're gonna draw into more extenders, so they're not as relevant. I would not play more than one, admittedly, but I do feel like Moray of Greed is an incredibly underrated tech card, because again, it can refresh a terrible hand and give you like full combo. I've had it happen so often. It's very rare for me to get a bad draw off of Moray of Greed, because like, you're drawing 3 cards for God's sake, like, come on. So overall, I do recommend this. In any water deck that can really afford it, that plays combo, that can brick really hard, I do recommend at least one copy of Moray of Greed. Like, it's kind of crazy. Onto the Saki 1-ofs, because they're at 1 on the ban list. We have 1 for 1, which is just, this is full combo plus any monster. It gives you your Neptibus. It can also give you your Fishborg if you really need it, but most of the time that's not going to happen. But yeah, it's one of the best extenders you have in your deck to get out the Neptibus in case Diva gets stopped. Monster Reborn. Why are you playing Monster Reborn? It's almost like this is a combo deck that relies on having bodies on board and extension. Also, you can do a cool thing like I did and special summon a Dragoon from your opponent's grave, because it doesn't have to be fusion summoned, and just put it under an Abyssalatia and tell them to eat your ass. Monster Reborn's just really fun. 1 copy of Called By that I do wish was at least 2 again, because this deck again does die hard to hand traps, so having more Called By would be nice, even though it can't stop Imperm. But, you know, I'll take the 1 if I have to. And then 1 copy of Upstart Goblin, because you are playing 40 cards and you want to play 39 cards and make that 38 with Moray of Greed. And then for the final pieces of back row, we have Abyss Scale of the Mizuchi and Abyss Sphere, both of our Megalo targets. These 2 cards, this card is crazy if you can get it on the board, and this card is just nice to have. So for those of you that don't know, this is the card that makes water invincible against things like Forbidden Droplet, Dark Ruler No More, Super Polymerization, all that, because you equip it to a Mermail, it gains 800 attack, right? Which usually is really only relevant if you're going for an OTK. But the most important thing is when a spell effect that was activated on your opponent's side of the field resolves, negate that effect, then send this card to the graveyard. And not only does this work on resolution, so it doesn't activate in response, it just doesn't activate, period. It's much like, okay, so Abyss Sphere here, right, it says, if this card leaves the field, destroy the monster. The destroying of the monster, it does not start a chain link, it is not an activation of anything. This does not activate. This just sends instead. Like, or it's like, for example, when you're banishing Meow Meow for your Battle Butler. Stuff like that. So this stops things like Droplet, stops things like Super Poly, and then obviously it stops Dark Ruler. So if you can get this on top of an already established negate board, that is really, really sexy. And then of course Abyss Sphere is just for helping to go for an OTK. Locks you out of using spells, but it specials a Mermail from your deck for free. Admittedly its effects are negated, which kind of sucks, but you know, you can still get out a Megalo or a Teus to protect you in dire situations, or as an extra body for when you're trying to go for game. And that's it for the main deck. Again, we are playing 40 cards, and there's a lot of different things that I would like to play and that I have played in this deck. So some examples of cards you can play Pot of Avarice, very nice. You're going to be putting a lot of things in your graveyard. The only things you're going to be banishing are like frogs and your fish board. So being able to get extra extenders is really nice, especially if you are playing stuff like Imperm. And then Aqua Spirit is another really cool card that I played for a while that I replaced just so I could play the Marksman. It is a level 4, it can access you your Abyss Dweller and everything like that. It can be an extra body to get on the field for your Hulk. It's a Bujinki Hashima target. Overall, you can never really go wrong with an Aqua Spirit. I just felt like it was bricking me too much, and I really wanted to play the Marksman, so there's that. Other cards that I do not own that you could play, Triple Tactics Talent is a card that I would love to pick up for this deck. Admittedly, this is one of the best decks you could probably play a card like that in, because like Triple T really works well in decks that they get stopped by hand traps, but they can keep going if they get extenders, and so if you're going to draw 2, then you know that can get you your extra bodies. Not to mention, a lot of people seem to forget that Triple Tactics Talent can also rip a card out of the opponent's hand, right? So say you open your Teus Dragoons combo plus Called By. Basically, they try to Ash you, right? And you Called By, and you open Triple T. And like you Called By the Ash, you go your full combo, you rip 3 on your turn, and then you rip a 4th card on your turn using Triple T, and it shuffles back too, so it's not like it can trigger any effects. And then they're going to go, and then you're going to rip your 5th card using your Desert Locust. And so you're basically going to hand loop them for almost their entire hand, and they have to get through 2 negates, which is really crazy. So Triple T synergizes with this deck super well. I'm hoping the Megaton reprint, if that is the case, is nice and cheap, so that I can have better access to it, because I really want to put it in this deck. I probably just take out like the Upstart Goblin, and then like play 42 cards. I just feel like it'd be super worth it. So yeah, there's that. And then I believe I had, oh yeah, Infinite Impermanence, obviously. That's the only hand trap you can play that isn't like Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. Imperm is really nice, but I do prefer to have consistency for this deck than hand traps. But again, it really depends on your local meta and stuff like that. I do play hand traps in the side, so there's that. But I feel like Imperm is pretty worth it, but I don't know. I don't have Imperms anymore, and so I can't really say anything anymore. But again, that's it for the main deck. Let's go ahead and get onto the extra decks. So starting off with the Link Monsters, we have Crystron Stupid Fibrax. This card is literally the only reason this deck can exist properly anymore. You don't have to play the Gen X package anymore. You don't have to play the fucking Gen X Ally Birdman and shit like that. You don't have to play any of like the really bad engines anymore, and your deck actually does something other than big damage, and it couldn't even do that properly, right? Because, I mean, you know, Megalo's only so big. But Hulk is one of the best things about this deck. It's not only a water, it can not only provide an additional hand rip by banishing itself and summoning a Desert Locust, but it's just so good. And I really hope it never gets touched on the ban list. Next up we have Marincess Coral Anemone. The only effect that matters on her is specialing a water engrave with 1500 or less attack and locking yourself into water. If this card did not lock you into water, the amount of scary shit this deck could do is kind of like, well, scary. Like summoning an Appaloosa on top of ripping 4 and shit like that would most likely be what happens. But nope, it locks you into water, which is perfectly fine. It's another reason why you can't summon Borreload Savage either. You have to play Dragite. But very nice card, honestly. Not only is it 2k, which is actually quite big for a Link 2, but also being able to get back your Neptibus, summon Deep Sea Minstrel, literally anything like that. It also specials Link monsters, by the way. Let's see, what Link monsters can you get back? You can get back Mastar Boy and stuff like that. You can special back Hulk. So that's really nice in case you need it, because Hulk doesn't have to be Link summoned to get its Desert Locust effect, which is really cool. So Coral Anemone, very good card. One Mermail Abyssalacia. She's not part of any combos, but she's like a last resort in case you can't sit on anything else, or you can add her on top of an already established board, and then like equip her with like a Mizuchi or something, have a heavy infantry in hand for her to discard. What she does is she sends a card from your hand to the grave on your opponent's turn, and searches you for a Mermail monster, so that's the only way you can search Teus. Unfortunately, and like if it was on your turn, you'd probably play this card like a lot more on the field. But unfortunately, no, it's not that good. But it does trigger your stuff like Heavy Infantry and Marksman, so that's really nice. And then if she's destroyed by an opponent's attack or card effect, you can send a water from your deck to grave for cost, and then special a water from your grave. So not only can it trigger like infantry and stuff like that, it can also get you a big body like Teus, like Gamma Seal, anything like that. So Abyssteus is pretty neat, honestly. And then also, yeah, everything she points to gains 500, which doesn't always come up, but it can come up. It's kind of meant for OTKing, but like most of the time I'm gonna have this in the main monster zone. Boy, which, believe it or not, is part of the full combo. He's so cool, but other than that, he's just here for extra damage and everything. But again, unless you have a God Hand, you do have to use your Glacia to go into a Boy for full combo, which I just find really funny and really cute. And then Bujinkia Hashima. So many people still don't know what this card does. Ignoring the second effect, basically on summon, it can't be used as link material, by the way, which sucks, but on summon, you special 2 monsters with the same level, 1 from your hand and 1 from your grave, negate their effects, and immediately C-summon with them. Usually you're going to be summoning 2 copies of Dragoons, and then going into a Bahamut Shark, detaching off Bahamut, specialing your Toad, and then triggering Dragoons, because Dragoons does trigger off being detached as Xyz material, which is really stupid. So it's basically both Dweller and Bahamut Shark Turbo. I mean, it can also get you your Mermail Abyssteus, it can also get you Toad and stuff like that, but most of the time, you're just going to be going for the Bahamut Shark. And then Appaloosa, because you're playing a combo deck that spams bodies on the board. I mean, you're going to play Appaloosa. On to the Xyz monsters, we have Mermail Abyssteus. I don't know if the focus is going to work, but look at that. That's like the prettiest ulti I have ever owned. I love this card so much. It's like triple sleeved. But yeah, Mermail Abyssteus, again, he's like Abyssteus, where if you have nothing else, you can usually go into him, or you can stack him on top of an already existing board, depending on how good your hand is. So, like a lot of people still don't know what this guy does either, so while he has material, level 5 and higher cannot attack, which can kind of suck, but I mean, you have Link monsters and other Xyz monsters, so you should be fine. And then once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach a material from him to skill drain all of your opponent's monsters that have less than, have less attack than him, not equal. And I do wish he was base 3k, that'd probably make him better, but, you know, you can boost him up with stuff like Boy, Mizuchi, Abyssteus, stuff like that. Overall, he's just really nice. You know, he's a big body, he's bigger than Megalo, so that's really cool. And, you know, having a skill drain is really nice, especially if you have a Mizuchi on top of that. And then Abyss Dweller, because you're playing a water deck, and it's Abyss Dweller, and it gives your guys attack, and it's Abyss Dweller, and it triggers your Dragoons, and it's Abyss Dweller. And have I mentioned that it's Abyss Dweller? Like, whatever. And then Bahamut Shark and 2 copies of Totally Awesome. 1 copy is for Bahamut to summon, and the other copy is for your Frog package. Though I have had situations where I have sat on a Bahamut Shark and summoned both Toads off of him, and triggered Dragoons 2 different times, which is really, really funny. But yeah, Bahamut Shark does trigger Dragoons, he gets out your Toad, it's just a free negate. You know, what's more to love? And then Toad is Toad. And then finally the Synchros, we have one of my favorite extra deck monsters of all time. You know him, you probably hate him. We have Trishula, the Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Being able to banish a card from the opponent's hand and banish the things you already sent to their graveyard off of Glacia is really nice. It basically turns a Rip 2 Banish 1 into a Rip 1 Banish 2. And so that's always really cool. And also sometimes you can banish on field, but most of the time you're just going to summon him going first anyway. 1 Ravenous Croco Dragon Archithes. So I want to really like this card, I really do, but most of the time, if I'm going into a level 9 Synchro, I'm just summoning Trishula, and most of the time I summon him, it just doesn't do anything, and just makes my Glacia go away. And also, he's really low if you don't have anything in your hand. He does get a quick effect pop that can trigger your guys, but at that point, you know, just summon Abyssteus. And then drawing, like usually, I'm not playing Imperm. If you're playing Imperm, I'd probably recommend summoning him more, but I don't play any hand traps or Imperm or anything like that that I would benefit off drawing from later in the turn. So honestly, I've been thinking about cutting this card for a Boral Sword, because this deck, you know, your Megalo's only so big even with a Mizuchi. Right, so I kind of need better ways of dealing damage after getting my combo off, and so probably going to cut him for a Boral Sword, but you know, you do you, boo. And then 1 copy of Dragite, because you can't summon Savage Dragon in this deck. Not only can Fishboar only be used for waters, Coral Enemy also locks you into waters, so there's that. I mean, a Spell and Trap Negate is really nice. He is base 3k. He's one of the biggest bodies you have in the deck, which is kind of sad, but you know, it's whatever. And also, you can fuck around and waste time by excavating the top 5 cards of your deck without having any rocks. And then 1 copy of Desert Locust, because, you know, Being able to special and rip another card out of the opponent's hand is kind of cool. Unfortunately, they do get to choose though. If otherwise, I feel like this card would be a lot better, but I am considering cutting this maybe for the Boral Sword actually, or if I really want Hulk to do something on the opponent's turn, maybe Formula Synchron, or once it comes out, just maybe I'll play the Deep Sea Repetitoire to summon off of Hulk, because it does have an effect that can trigger your heavy infantry and stuff on your opponent's turn, which is cool. And also, if it's synchro summoned and sent to the grave, you can special level 5 or higher water from your grave, I believe, so that's kind of cool, I guess, but you know. Also, yeah, I just feel like Desert Locust is kind of underwhelming anymore. Also, he's an earth and an insect, so he's kind of annoying. And that's going to be it for the entire deck profile. Tell me what you think about it in the comments below. And next we're going to go on to the combos. I'm very excited to show you the combos. This deck is a very combo-heavy deck, and the combos are very fun to pull off, so I'll see you there. Alright guys, welcome to the combo section of the video. I'm sitting here hoping my camera does not die on me because it's at the last bar, we're going to go on to the combos. There are two different combos in the deck. This one is the most common one you'll probably be doing, and also the easiest one to access, because you don't need just Diva. You can also do it off of a bunch of different other interactions, but mainly it's just going to be the Deep Sea Diva. And trust me when I say that just Deep Sea Diva, if it can go off, can lead you to something really, really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and start off. Let me put my extra deck over here. I'm going to start off simply by, you know what, guess what? Normal summoning Deep Sea Diva. I'm going to put her over here, and I'm going to use her effect. Of course, we are going to be summoning our Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince. Everything in my deck is in order, so it might take me a second to get to things. And then Neptibus is going to activate, remember it's not a non-summon effect, but Neptibus is going to activate. You're going to send a copy of Dragoons to search a copy of Dragoons. And then Dragoons in grave will trigger. You're going to get hand trapped and you're going to break down in tears. I'm just kidding, hopefully that doesn't happen. You're going to search your Lapis Dragon because it is a Sea Serpent, and because it was added from deck to hand, you can special summon itself. So next, you're going to link both of these. Reminder, they're both tuners, so even if you have a different body on board than Diva or Lapis Dragon, as long as you have one or the other, you're going to be able to access your Halqifibrax. Speaking of which, we're going to summon our Halqifibrax right up here. I'm sorry if it's a bit zoomed out, there's just like nothing I can do really. But we're going to activate Halqifibrax's effect on summon. We are going to already go into our Fishborg launcher. And remember, it cannot activate its effects, but it doesn't matter because, you know, it's a non-summon. But yeah, it has no effects on the field, so it's not like it matters. Next up, we're going to use our Fishborg launcher and our Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince, to go into our Bujinki Ahashima. Because Bujinki Ahashima, I'm sorry I did not say this in the deck profile, he requires two monsters with the same level, and they're both level 1, so you're going to go ahead and go into your Bujinki Ahashima right under your Hulk. I like to keep him as far away from the actual action as possible. I hate this card. Effect on summon, it is going to summon two monsters with the same level, one from your hand, one from your grave. You're going to summon two copies of Dragoon, one from your hand and one from your grave. And you're going to go ahead and overlay them because it's part of the effect. You're going to go into your Bahamut Shark. Alright, and then admittedly you can get nibbed in this combo. In the full combo you can't get nibbed because you'll have the Bahamut Shark out really fast. I'm sorry, I'm not good at videos. But unfortunately here you can get nibbed, so that's just unfortunate. But Bahamut Shark's going to activate, detaching your Dragoons. I'm going to have the graveyard up here, make it a bit easier to show. There we go. Yeah, Bahamut Shark will detach your Dragoons and summon your Toad. I like to keep Toad all the way out of the way as well. And Dragoons will trigger because it is dumb and likes to activate in the graveyard after getting detached as Xyz material. You're going to search your Molinglacia because, newsflash, you have 5 waters in grave, so you're going to special summon your Molinglacia just for free, and you're going to rip 2 random cards out of your opponent's hand, which is really nice because they could be like important starters, and you just gotta pray that they don't do anything in grave like Drytron. As well, everything in your graveyard is water, so you're going to be able to special summon your Fishborg launcher. It's just going to banish itself when it leaves the field, and so I'm just going to put my banish pile over here. You're going to end off the combo by linking all of these off into an Appaloosa above the Goddess with 3 materials, so that is 2400 attack and 3 negates. And so off of 1 card, you get to rip 2 cards out of your opponent's hand, and he's also a big 2800 body. You get an Omni Negate in the form of Toad, which can also bounce back your Waters Engrave, which is really nice. You can add back a Neptibus, send another Dragoons next turn, etc. And you get 3 monster negates off of Appaloosa. More likely 2 than anything, because you can run over Appaloosa after like 1 or 2 negates easily. But overall, it's a very nice board state to get off of 1 card. Not to mention, you're going to have 4 other cards in hand most likely still, unless you used Called By or something. And you're going to be able to get other things as well. Common things that I get on the board along with this are a second Toad, an Abyssalacia with a heavy infantry in hand, and an Abyss Gale with a Mizuchi on field equipped to her, an Abyss Gaios potentially with a Mizuchi equipped to him, things like that. So 1 card nets you a pretty sweet board state, but let's get on to the juicy 2 card combo, shall we? And here we are at the end of the combo tutorial. This is going to be your 2 card combo, your Mermail Abyssteus and your Atlantean Dragoons combo. This, while it's not the heart and soul of the deck, because that would be the Diva combo because it's so easy, and it's the main one it's known for, this is the perfect example of the full extent of what this deck can do, especially when uninterrupted, because even if you get interrupted during this combo, you can still revert quickly to Diva combo, but this is going to really show exactly what all this deck can do. So you're going to start off by activating your Mermail Abyssteus, you're going to reveal it, and send your Atlantean Dragoons for cost. And then obviously it's going to special himself. I'm sorry if you just heard my dog sneeze. I am currently in my dining room. And you're going to trigger Chainlink 1, your Dragoons, Chainlink 2, Teus. They're both mandatory, so you can actually interchange them. But obviously you're going to want to do the one on field as Chainlink 2, because that way you can't get impermed and ashed. So your Dragoons is going to end up searching you a Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince. And your Teus is going to search you your copy of Mermail Abysspike. And keep in mind you have a normal summon, so you're going to go ahead and normal summon your Mermail Abysspike. You're going to trigger Mermail Abysspike's on summon effect. You discard a water to search for a level 3 water. And so you're going to grab your Mermail Abyss Gundy. Neptibus is going to trigger, I'm sorry, it's supposed to be up here. Neptibus is going to trigger, because he was sent to activate a water's effect, this is a mandatory effect by the way, you're going to target your Dragoons and you're just going to special it, which is really nice. Obviously you have 2 level 4 waters on the field, one of which being a Dragoon, so quite clearly you're going to want to go into your Bahamut Shark. And so now, this is summon number 4, and now you're going to go summon number 5, detach your Dragoons, and summon your Totally Awesome. That way you cannot get in a Beard, which is really nice, very clean. And also it can stop other hand traps, but you know, they're probably going to hand trap you a lot sooner than this. But now Atlantean Dragoons is going to trigger, because it was detached as material for Bahamut. You're going to search your Molenglacia, and you're probably going to be like, oh, you know, you only have 2 waters engraved, why are you searching Molenglacia? Well, my dear viewer, it's almost like you can take these 2 monsters and link summon into your Marincess Coral Anemone. And now you are at 5 waters engraved. You're going to go ahead and special summon your Molenglacia, the Elemental Lord, rip 2 cards out of your opponent's hand. And, fun fact, we haven't used Neptibus yet, so what you're going to do is you're going to activate Marincess Coral Anemone, targeting your Neptibus, and special him to her zone. And now you are locked into water for the rest of the turn, so just keep that in mind. No Bajinkia Hashima plays or anything like that, no Appaloosa. But now, we can activate our Neptibus. Now we're going to send a copy of Dragoons to search your final copy of Dragoons. And now you're going to use Dragoons that you just sent, and you're going to search your Mermail Abyss Megalo. You can also describe this as the Mermail combo, I just realized, because you don't use a single Mermail monster in the other combo, but you use plenty in this one. You use at least one of each, so that's really funny. So normally, you know, right here, you'd be like, oh, Megalo, send these, get a bunch of effects off, but the thing is you don't have enough space, so you're going to go ahead and link these 2 off. You are going to lose your next battle phase. Keep that in mind. That is very important. You don't want to accidentally cheese a win because of that. But you're going to go into your Mastar Boy. You can't go into Abyssalacia, and also I wouldn't recommend it anyway because you're going to get rid of it, but you can't because, keep in mind, Coral Anemone is a Cybers because Marincess are not fish for some reason, or Aquas. But now you have plenty of room to go ahead and do your things. You're going to go ahead and activate your Abyss Megalo, sending your Gundy and your Dragoons. special itself from hand. You're going to go Chainlink 1 Dragoons because it's mandatory, Chainlink 2 Gundy, targeting the Teus in your grave, and Chainlink 3 Megalo to search. I always do Megalo as the last chain because, you know, I mean, if they hit that, I really could not care less. So you're going to go ahead and grab your Abyss Sphere because it's the one that you can always get off without having to rely on having a Mermail on field. And then obviously you're going to special summon your Teus off of your Gundy. And then finally Dragoons will resolve and you will go ahead and search your Lapis Dragon. And so now Lapis Dragon will special summon itself from your hand, and remember that it is in fact a tuner. And so very late into your turn, funnily enough, compared to like a lot of other decks, you're going to go into your Crystron Halqifibrax. And Halqifibrax is going to activate. You're going to summon your Fishborg Launcher, of course. And now look at this board. This is beautiful. I mean, you can go ahead and set this right now, by the way. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to use your Teus, your Fishborg Launcher, and your Neptibus, which adds up to a total of level 9. And you're going to summon your Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Of course, you're going to rip one of the cards that you sent off of Molten Glacia, and you're going to rip a card from their hand. That is rip 3 now. They're left with 2 cards in hand if they have not hand-trapped yet. And now, everything in your grave right now, this entire big ol' stack, this is all water monsters. So you can go ahead and special back your Fishborg Launcher. And now you're going to use your Fishborg Launcher, which is going to get banished, so I'm going to put it over here, and your Mermail Abyss Megalo, and you're going to go into your Adamancipator Risen Dragite. And so now what are you going to do after this? Well, your opponent's going to enter their main phase, and they're going to have 3 cards in hand. And what you're going to do is they're going to activate literally anything that's going to put them at 2 cards in hand, or they're going to like tribute one of your guys for a Kaiju or something. And what you can do as soon as that happens, you can activate your Halqifibrax's effect. You can banish it to special a Tuner Synchro from your extra deck. And of course you're going to summon your Desert Locust. I like to summon it right under the extra monster zone because I don't really have anything that points downward. But Desert Locust is going to trigger, they're going to have to discard another card from their hand, and if they've already activated something and it didn't make them search, they're effectively going to be at like 1 card in hand. And the thing is, whatever they activated in the first place, right, that you chained Halq to, you can actually negate with your things, because Toad is an Omni Negate, and Dragite is a Spell and Trap Negate. And so basically, if you count one of these for each card in their hand, they have nothing. They're basically going to be at 0 cards in hand, because you put them at 3, you put them at 2, and then the other 2 cards that are left you can negate. And then you have like big beefy monsters on board as well, and admittedly you don't have your next battle phase, otherwise this would be like insanely broken. But once you do, you can go ahead and activate your Abyss Sphere and summon your other Megalo. And while it can't get its double attack, it can still trigger things like Neptibus and Dragoons if you tribute it off of it, and it can still swing. So you can just go ahead and put all of these and go ahead and attack for game once you can. And that is the biggest extent of what the deck can do. It's like the greatest demonstration of the greatness that this deck entails. It just needs like a little bit more of a push, a little bit more protection maybe, because the hand traps are the bane of this deck's existence. Let me know in the comments below if you have a favorite deck that actually dies really fast to hand traps. I would love to know, so I can mess around with other things and get disappointed when they don't work as intended. But anyways guys, that's gonna have to do it for the video. Thank you so much for watching if you have watched this far. Tell me what you think about the deck in the comments below, both the deck profile and what do you think this deck might be able to do actually in the meta. Do you think it has potential or anything like that? That'd be kind of cool to hear you guys' opinions. Just no shit opinions. I will delete everything. Not really, I don't really give a shit. Just don't be an asshole. But yeah, again, tell me all what you think about the deck profile and the combos and everything like that, and what you think about this deck in general. Tell me if you're on Team Blaster or Team Tidal, and whether or not you think either of them can come off the list. I do feel like both of them can come off the list, because they, like, Tidal can't be used outside of this deck, and Blaster, the decks that it can be used in, and that would actively use it, aren't that great. And so, yeah, again, tell me what you think about it, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.